Art One-on-One with Mr. Burgher.
Welcome to another episode of Art One-on-One. I'm Nichole Jordan, alongside your professional artist and master educator, Mr. Burgher.
Yeah.
How are you today, Mr. Burgher?
I'm just fine. Thank you. Thank you for acknowledging my wellness. I mean, that's what a good wellness type coach of your caliber does.
That is correct.
You make sure the people that are around you are doing well. For those of you that have not on the YouTube, make sure that you go check out Nikki's content.
Soulful Living Coach.
Soulful Living Coach.
Yes.
And she will coach you up with her colleagues, and it'll be really good.
Because you do that so well. You listen to me on all the
I'm
advice I give you.
I'm not the best listener. I'll be honest. I mean, I'm not. I try. I try to be healthier, and I think that your good influence is appreciated.
That's good. Good.
So,
and I am a good listener, so.
You are a great listener.
That's why we compliment each other so well on here.
That's
hopefully.
Right. Well, hopefully that's the vibe that we put out for others. We'll see. And again, we're learning all this stuff as we go. We're experimenting with different audio, video things as we go, and hopefully that product is improving.
Although we did have kind of a glitch last week.
Well, I mean, there's some video glitches in there. There's some audio things that just, it's just not right. But again, bear with us. There's a learning curve.
Sure.
Your first, having made lots and lots and lots of content, my first several hundred videos aren't as great as what I'm making now. And I would also say that the same is true to podcasts. It's a totally different beast. It's a totally different thing. Being a autonomous person by myself making the videos is way different than being a team player in a podcast and all of that. And I think that there's a learning curve with my approach. There's a learning curve with the audio and the visual and all of that, making sure that because this is all just like in one setting. We don't get a redo. We have not done a redo, although we have wanted to do a redo. Well, you have. I really haven't, but I want to maintain, the trueness of what we're doing in the moment.
Right.
And hopefully others like that as well.
I think so, based on some of the comments we're getting, and we're moving in the right direction.
I think you're right. So speaking of all of the good things that we're getting from our viewership, I'm always intrigued by little things like where we're being viewed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
In the analytics of the YouTube, you can go in and you can zip down in there and you can dig around and find all kinds of things on what demographic of people you're hitting and where you're missing and who's watching and that kind of thing. But I'm always fascinated by where in the world I might be viewed. And I do have quite an international viewership.
Okay.
We are building an international viewership. Of course, the number one country where we're viewed,
here,
the United States. Yeah, the United States is obviously the number one place where we're viewed. I mean, that makes sense. Number two is Canada, which makes sense. I want to say thank you to all of my friends to the north. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Number 3 place in the world we're watched.
Dun, dun, dun.
The United Kingdom. Our English friends and neighbors. So thank you very much to my my United Kingdom watchers, listeners, subscribers, followers. Number 4, Australia.
Ah, one of my favorite places.
Good day, mate.
I've always wanted
Which
to go
is,
there.
oh, that's so stupid. I just lost. All of my Australian viewers just were like, F this guy. Boop, we're out. But number 5 was, I wish I could say that it makes sense. But it kind of doesn't, to be honest. It really, it kind of doesn't make sense. I don't know why. I love it, but I wish I knew why. That my friends, our followers and listeners, located at the United Arab Emirates, are watchers of Art 101 with Mr.
Wow.
Burgher.
That's interesting. I'm going to have to do some research on.
I have to do some research on it. Yeah, I mean, which is, to me, kind of fascinating. Like, these predominantly English-speaking countries where we do a lot of art content focused on, I mean, obviously, everything's in English. Which, again, and I've had viewers from other parts of the world that are not English-speaking, but, like Germany was, like last year, I had lots and lots and lots of viewership in Germany. But I just think it's kind of fascinating. And I started to dig a little bit deeper.
Imagine that.
Imagine that.
You tend to go down rabbit holes.
I do. And one thing that I started to look at was where, speaking of the United States, our number one pocket, the United States is a very different country.
By different, you mean?
Well, the Midwest is very different from the East Coast, which is very different from the West Coast, which is very different from,
Gotcha.
Arizona is very different from Florida.
There's a lot of diversity between those.
Very well put. And so it's like, well, where is our viewership?
Within the United States.
Within the United States. And it's no surprise, really, that your biggest groups are going to fall around big metropolitan areas. Just because you've got more of a population. I'm sure there's lots of people in, somewhere that's watching the videos, but they might not show up as a large collective because there's one or two people. But I found it fascinating that the top 5 cities that are currently watching Art 101 and watching Art 1 or listening to, podcasting with, whatever, Art 1-on-1, interacting with, consuming the product. Number 5, because I'm going to go in reverse order this time, just to throw you off.
All right.
Number 5, Houston, Texas. Thank you to my Texas friends.
Yes.
And speaking of Texas friends, number 4, Dallas, Texas. Another big art type community, like they love art and they're watching the art content. The next 2, in my mind, in terms of art, really make sense to me. Number 3, number 3, I guess either way you go, it's number 3. Because if you start at 5, you start at 1, the middle is always number 3. Okay. And number 3, Chicago. Sweet home Chicago, the Blues Brothers, the home of the Art Institute of Chicago, one of my favorite cities to visit. And number 2, New York City. They watch the Art 101. They listen to the Art 1-on-1. That's awesome. The number 1 city that listens to this content, that consumes this product, initially made 0 sense to me.
Okay, we're waiting.
0 cents. Superior, Wisconsin.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The number 1, more than New York, more than Chicago, more than Dallas, more than Houston, more than I would think it would have been, like, if it would have been Des Moines, Iowa, with all of the students and all of the people and all of that, like, that would have been like, okay, like that, I get that. But Superior, Wisconsin.
So I'm assuming you kept digging.
I kept looking, because I'm like, why in the world would anybody, like, why would that volume of viewership happen in one city, and that city be Superior, Wisconsin?
And did you come to any conclusions?
The only conclusion that I can come up with, it's a little far-fetched, but this is what I believe. This is where my logic has led me. In the city of Superior, Wisconsin, there must be a art school. There's got to be a art community. There's got to be a professor. There's got to be somebody that has pushed this content, and they've said, "Watch this. Look at this." Earlier this past year, my oldest son, who's in college, he's going to a local community college, and he's taking a humanities class, and they're sitting in the humanities class, and they're like, "Hey, we're going to be looking at some art stuff, and we want you to write about it." And then they pop up a video, and Brody, my son, he's on his computer, he's doing something, he's multitasking as college students I'm sure do, and all of a sudden he says, "I'm looking at my computer, doing my thing, and I hear my dad's voice." And in the middle of class, they're watching an Art 101 with Mr. Burgher on Edward Hopper's Automat, and which I did a whole video on, which is a piece at the Des Moines Art Center. And I talk about the history of it and what an automat is and blah, 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 blah. And anyway, the point is, Brody's like, I had to go up and tell my professor, "Hey, that video we watched, that's my dad." And they were, oh my God, like they had no idea. And so it's kind of this really bizarre coincidence. But there's got to be, going back to the original story, there's got to be someone, there's got to be a connection in Superior, Wisconsin. And the only thing I can think of is that if I can say all the words in the right order, at the University of Wisconsin Superior, there's got to be a professor, an art person, or someone. Their semester's over, right? You've got your finals and all of that sort of thing, but I still want to say thank you. I want to say thank you. Thank you to the professor. Thank you to the art student. Thank you to the art person. Thank you to the dean or the whomever at the illustrious University of Wisconsin Superior. And I'll tell you this, if there's anyone in the world that supports me, I almost feel obligated to support them.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
I feel like, you know what, you're watching my stuff, you're supporting me, I gotta support you. So, what we're gonna do,
He's stripping down.
we're stripping down. For the rest of the show, I'm gonna be supporting the University of Wisconsin Superior. Thank you. This show is dedicated
To somebody.
to somebody
Or a group of people.
or a group of somebodies at the University of Wisconsin Superior. So, and I appreciate that. And if you continue to support me, I'll continue to support you. I had to go all the way. I had to get this, because you don't just find this on the rack around where we live. So what I had to order it online, and I had to have it shipped, and I had to, because we kind of turn around pretty quick with these shows, and boom, 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 I had to, long story short,
You got the shirt.
I got the shirt. So
thank you for watching. Is that their colors? Do you know?
they're the yellow jackets.
Oh, so
They're black and yellow. It's not the Hawkeyes. This is Wisconsin.
Yellow jacket.
Yellow jackets.
I was a B for college.
I was
St. Ambrose B.
I was
So I'm right there with you.
I was a statesman, and then I was at William Penn.
Okay.
I was a William Penn statesman, and then I became a Northern Iowa Panther, and then I went to Viterbo University in La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Oh.
And I'll be honest with you, I have no idea. I have no idea what they are. I have no idea what they're.
It must have had a huge impact on you.
Well, educationally, yes.
Oh, okay.
I didn't live on the. I mean, I did it through.
Online.
It wasn't on. That was before they did online.
Oh, okay.
I mean, this is pre-online. This was like it's a satellite. They have a satellite school in Iowa. But anyway, I digress.
Back on track.
Back on track. This is what the pod boss is supposed to do.
I did it right there.
All right, perfect.
Keeping you on track. All right, well, we're going to switch gears here from talking about mascots and move on to your first video of last week. Actually, I don't know if it's the first video, but it's the first one I'm going to talk about on Charles White. It was called White's Wisdom.
White's Wisdom. Charles White was a great educator who a lot of people probably don't know about him or his artwork or what he did, but very influential artist who worked through the Harlem Renaissance and worked at several colleges, predominantly Otis, which is right outside of Los Angeles. So thank you to my, I don't know, does Otis watch? Maybe I can get their shirt. What's their mascot? They're probably the bumblebees.
Focus.
Oh, my bad. And I think Charles White's wisdom gets a little bit. I think it's sometimes it's a little bit confusing. I think you gotta listen to it a couple times to really
I agree. It took me a minute.
What he's saying. But I think once the message that he's trying to deliver sinks in, to me it really rings true.
So paraphrase. So it did take me a minute. I had to listen to it. Like you said.
So to me, it's like this. I can't, and I'm sure that Mr. White had this situation occur in his classroom where I've got a student that comes to me and says, Mr. Burgher, I've got this great plan for this artwork. Right now we're doing final projects. I'm going to do my final project. And they're like, I'm going to just draw a bunch of squares and rectangles. We've been looking at abstract art. And I'm going to draw a bunch of squares and rectangles like Mondrian.
My favorite.
And I'm just going to do that.
Okay.
And then they turn it in and it's like, this is my project. And it's like, okay, your lines aren't crisp. You slopped it together. Clearly you did one layer of paint. I can see the strokes and streaks through it. It doesn't look right. It looks like you just slopped it together in 15 minutes. You've been over there playing on your computer and your phone and you're talking to your buddies and doing all these things instead of working on the project. So I know you're not putting the time, effort, and energy that you're supposed to be putting into it. And so you've kind of manipulated yourself into being able to talk your way into this being a legitimate project when really what you've done is you have derailed an opportunity to get better. And I think that's what he's talking about. He's talking about like these velvet type paintings that were very in vogue and popular back in the 60s and maybe 60s, 70s. And where there would be like a piece of black velvet stretched over a canvas, and you do some sort of a drawing on that or a painting of a seascape or whatever, and be like, yeah, this is really good. But really, you can talk about it, you can be convincing that yeah, this is a great idea, but really, you're only concerned with just blah.
The material presentation.
The material presentation. Just saying, here's this painting. Yeah, that's a really cool palm tree, and that's a really cool cabana. But what does it mean?
Yeah, he wants them to go deeper.
It doesn't mean anything. So when Charles White's really kind of getting at with the parallel between the artwork and the female, and finding your significant other, and the guy that's just in to find a significant other that's attractive without looking at what's on the inside. I think that's kind of an interesting parallel. I don't know if it's really an outdated parallel. I think that some person might be able to listen to those words and be like, this guy is a chauvinist. You gotta put yourself into the time. He's not trying to be misogynistic by making the comment. I think he's just trying to make a parallel where there are those people, and I think we can all recognize that there are those people that only look at the attractiveness of a potential partner as opposed to what's on the inside of that potential partner. Is it all physical attraction? There's probably going to be some, but or maybe a lot. But either way, there has to be more on the inside of the person. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. And I think that's good wisdom for finding a partner, but also really good wisdom in making artwork. It's got to be beyond just, hey, that's a pretty thing, I'm going to paint that. Well, but what does it mean? What are you trying to say? What is the message? And if there's not a message, if you're not saying anything, there's certainly a place, in my view, in making art for art's sake.
Right.
That's a thing, and I agree with that. But I also think that art can be a very great tool for making an argument, for making a stance, for sharing a view, for expressing an opinion, for showing another perspective on any number of things that are going on.
It's his platform. It's like social media today. It's a platform for him to, and for him, I think he expressed a lot of social and political views through his art. And he wanted people to go deeper and do the same. And that's the teacher part of him, because it sounds like he did do a lot of teaching. And I don't know, he's probably one of my favorite artists so far, just because of him wanting people to get deeper and do what makes you happy or what makes your soul or spirit, put that into your artwork. And I thought, oh, that's I loved that about him. He wanted to be seen as more than just an artist. He wanted to be witty and intellectual, and he called himself a historian. He really liked to go deep into other things besides the art, but also his art represented that. So,
and he is unfortunately one of those artists that was influential and great, and has become a bit of a footnote in history as opposed to a major contributor to art history. But I do think that he has value, and I think that any student that wants to learn how to put some emotion into their work, look at Charles White. And any art teacher, especially any art teacher, if you want to learn how to reach your students and how to he ran his classroom like a Baptist church, and he would stand on his pulpit and he would express his views and say, this is what we need to do. And he was a motivator, and he was a go-getter, and he was one of those people that really influenced a lot of artists that were coming out and creating work. And as an educator, I know that as an educator, I identify with him much more than I do as an artist, even though what he says is very true of art. His art is not like my art, but what he says about art holds true to art across the spectrum. And what he says about art education, that's it. That's the OG.
I don't even know.
The original.
Okay. I gotcha. Snoop.
It's no.
Is it not a Snoop thing?
No, that's an iced tea thing.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, so I'm trying to figure out how to transition into our next video, the next short we're going to talk about, from Snoop to
Hokusai.
And I'm struggling, but
whatever.
We're just going to move right into it.
We're just going to move right into it. And Hokusai was an interesting individual. And, this short was, it was a 15-second clip.
Right.
So,
that's a short.
It's a short. And just talked about how he had changed his studio 93 times over the course of his career. Also, another interesting fact on Hokusai, one of the greatest printmakers of all time, but he also changed his name 30 times. Yeah, he went by 30 different names over the course of his career.
Interesting. Did he not get popular until after he switched to Hokusai?
It
would have stuck, right? If he would have.
Hokusai was not where he ended up.
Really?
No, that was not his final persona, his final moniker, name, title, nickname, whatever. Hokusai was not. That's how he is known now. I don't know in the order which. In the spectrum of the 30, was that Hokusai his birth name, or was, I know it wasn't his last.
Interesting.
But yeah, he had changed his name 30 times. And I thought for sure it was maybe to run from creditors or debtors, or you know what I mean? Like,
maybe that's why he changed the spaces too.
Is it
maybe it wasn't about him
wanting he'd be running from debtors, not creditors. He was not running from people giving him money. Right. He's running from people trying to collect money.
But
idiot.
To my point, maybe that's why he changed places 93 times too.
I don't think so. I think that the 93 times, by all accounts, is because he didn't want to clean. He didn't want to clean it up. He would make a mess. He didn't want to clean it up. He'd just be like, screw it. I'm just pack up my tools and hit the road.
Does that resonate with you at all?
It's not a bad philosophy. It's not a bad idea.
I thought you might like that.
I mean, honestly, it's not a completely horrible idea, but it's also not the most practical idea. Although I'm getting close to 93 times that I've moved around this world.
All right. Well.
But whatever.
On to art parodies.
With art parodies, I think that there are a lot of things in there that, I mean, there's not like a lot of art historical content in there in that particular video. And I don't know if people are really into that sort of thing, but I think it's interesting how a piece of artwork can be parodied or influenced or be used in the creation of other artworks and things like that.
I didn't realize until watching that art parody video how much, I mean, there are so many different movies and shows and references to the different videos that you brought, or not videos, artworks that you brought up, like American Gothic, The Scream, The Last Supper, and then you kind of rolled through different.
Yeah.
It is crazy to me how many people incorporate those, or like, what makes you do that?
Yeah, I mean, your guess is as good as mine, I suppose. I think that it's just something that gets ingrained in popular culture for one reason or another, and we use it. You know, that we see The Last Supper over and over and over again, and Mel Brooks puts it in a movie. We see The Last Supper over and over and over again, and somebody writes a book around, the Da Vinci Code, the Dan Brown bestseller. People see the Da Vinci Code. People see The Last Supper over and over and over again, and they use it for an advertisement for a magazine or a newspaper or a social distancing ad campaign or a movie trailer or a movie advertisement or something like that.
Memes, that's a big thing now.
Yeah.
It's used in memes. They are used in memes.
There are lots of very famous, prominent artworks that you will find over and over and over again that are, memes. And, which is kind of stupid, but at the same time, would Franz Hals be completely upset that his artwork is being used over and over and over again to make fun of I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
It was important enough, like it was iconic enough or important enough to that person to bring it up, so I would think they would appreciate it.
Kind of going in another tangent and a whole other spiral of ideas are things like you mentioned Grant Wood and his American Gothic painting, The Farmer. Mm-hmm. Standing next to the female character. Everybody thinks. You look at advertisement, you look at all these things, and everybody thinks it's the farmer and the farmer's wife. and you look at advertising, and they're a couple, but they're not a couple. That's not the intention of the painting. It's a farmer and his daughter. And people are always like, look at that lady, and look at that guy, and look how much older he is than her. Yeah, that's because that's her dad. Well, why are they in a picture together? You've never taken a picture with your dad? Like, no girl has ever taken a picture with her dad? Number one. Number two, it's a play on social norms of the 1930s. Well, this was painted in 1930, so it's kind of more of the social norms of the 1920s. And which is basically, if I wanted to date you in the 1920s, I didn't just call you on the phone, because you couldn't. I didn't just show up at your house, because that was just socially inappropriate. I would have to go through a certain set of steps in order to have a relationship with you. I would have to go to your house. I would have to present, I would have to have so many, going on a date would involve me sitting in a room talking to you while your parents monitored what was going on, what was being said, what was being discussed. Don't sit too close to her, and they would have those chairs. I don't know if you've seen them from back in the day, but there were the chairs that faced opposite directions. It kind of looks like an S. So there would be one chair that would, the seat would face this way and the other chair would face the other way. That's what that was designed to do. So we could sit like that, face to face without sitting next to each other on like a sofa or a love seat. A love seat. Ooh wee. And so anyway, there were all of these sorts of things that were developed and created to maintain this. Okay, we want you to know if this is going to work, but don't get too close. Don't get too don't touch. You better not touch. Don't show your ankles. Don't none of that crazy wildness.
So you're saying this because
the painting is. When you look at the painting, you're looking through the eyes of a male suitor, a male caller, who's coming to take the girl on a date. And who's coming? How is she being presented? You look at American Gothic, the guy he looks angry. And he's holding his pitchfork. This is his weapon. You will bring my daughter back. You will have her here by 8:30. You will make sure that she's taken care of. You will make sure that she's comes back in one piece. You will make sure that she's protected, because if you don't, I'm going to kill you with my pitchfork. And so this and you see her. She's kind of looking off. She's not looking at the guy. She's looking off to the side. She's kind of embarrassed. She's like, I know what's going on, and this is kind of humiliating, and oh my God,
is this factual? Is this factual, or this is your interpretation?
This is factual. This is factual. He always wanted there to be a farmer and a farmer's daughter sort of picture. The guy with the pitchfork in front of the thing, and how he got that house and how he got the rest of the pieces of the painting are a little bit, it's a different story, it's a more unique story, but that's the whole framework of what American Gothic is about: the farmer and the farmer's daughter, not a couple. All
right, well, it is officially time to wrap it up.
Officially.
I think we've covered
the pod boss has spoken. Damn it, we are done. I'm done with your yip yap.
It's my job.
Time to move it along.
I'm tired of listening to you.
Tired of it. Let's move it along.
So I think we should, again, say thank you to everyone that's listening and supporting us.
Yes, for sure. Especially our friends at the University of Wisconsin Superior, whoever you are.
The Yellow Jackets.
The Yellow Jackets. By God, thank you for your support and your love of the channel. Whoever it is over there at the University of Wisconsin Superior that's making people watch this thing, or whatever's going on over there in Superior, Wisconsin, we whatever it is, thank you.
We appreciate you watching.
Golly, however it happened, we,
And the Australians.
And the Australians and the folks from the United Arab Emirates and the UK and Canada and the United States and Portugal.
Keep it coming.
And Germany and wherever else you're from. I don't know. I've lost countries. Italy. Any Italians out there?
All right, bring it back in.
This is why you're the pod boss.
That's right.
All right.
Well, thank you for listening.
Thanks.
Continue to subscribe at all the places.
Share with your neighbors. Yeah. Anyway, have a good night or day or whenever you're listening to this. And, have a good one.
We'll see you next time.